Assalamualaikum, my name is Laila and I'll be presenting today alongside my group mates Syafiqah and Ain. Together we have reviewed two insightful research articles for our corporate financial management and analysis subject. This article look at two different but equally important aspects of financial decision making. The first article focused on how aggregate distress risk. It introduced a more advanced model to measure this risk. The second article focused on capital structure decision in Malaysian company. It investigates how the right mix of debt and equity influence firm performance. Although these two approach from different angles, one from the market level, the other one from the firm level, both articles highlight importance of financial insight that we as future managers should understand. So without further ado, let's start with Syafiqah.
Okay, so thank you, Laila, for the introduction. So I'm going to explain about the first article that is written by Guo and Jiang in 2021, explores how financial distress on a market-wide level affects equity returns. So they use a special model known as CHS model, short for Campbell, Hughes and Zilagi. So this model calculates the default probability of companies, meaning how likely firms are to go bankrupt. So instead of traditional credit spreads, which often miss early warning signs, this model gives a more accurate view of market risk by looking at several indicators together, including market volatility and firm characteristics. So the study uses data from 1982 to 2016 in the US and finds that when overall distress risk increases, stock returns tend to rise afterwards because investors demand higher returns for taking on more risk. So this approach is especially useful in times of crisis like 2008 recession or COVID-19. It helps the analysts and fund managers make better investment decisions based on the market-wide signals. Alright, so next slide is on the critical analysis or key findings for this article. So this article is strong in terms of both its data and methods. So it analyzes over 30 years of US market data and uses reliable tools like time series regressions and Fermat-MacBeth estimations to test its model. So the CHS model stands out because it just doesn't just look at credit spreads, which can be slow to react. Instead, it uses more dynamic indicators such as firm-specific volatility and leverage to calculate distress. So another key strength is how it links the default probability to future stock returns. So this article shows that when distress risk is high, expected returns are also high, offering a better explanation than traditional model like CAPM. So however, the article does have some limitations. So the first limitation is it is quite technical and some readers without finance background may find it hard to follow. So also since it only used for US data, so applying it result directly to emerging markets like Malaysia may not give accurate insights without further adaptation. So the model also quite complex, where it can overwhelm the audience with unfamiliar stats. Alright, so next for the critique and reflection of this article. So reflecting on this article, we've learned that systemic risk, the kind that affects the whole market, needs to be measured in more advanced ways. So the CHS model improves how we understand market uncertainty by using real-time data and predicting default risk more accurately. So this is especially relevant during times of financial crisis when distress levels are high. Investors may get better returns, but only if they understand the risk properly. So this article also made us think about how this model could be applied in Malaysia or in other types of investments like bonds or real estate. So it pushed us to consider whether similar models could be used to measure new types of risks like political instability or climate change. So in summary, this article improves modern asset pricing theory and gives us a valuable tool for managing investment risk more effectively in today's complex financial environment. So I'll pass this to Ain to explain on the second article.
This slide presents the central finding of the article by Ayaz, Sabri and Ahmad. The study found an inverted U-shaped relationship between the leverage and firm performance. In simple terms, a moderate level of debt improves performance by enhancing discipline and offering tax benefits. However, beyond a certain point, additional debt leads to financial distress, weakening the firm's performance. These confirm the trade-off theory, which argues that while that can be beneficial, there is an optimal level. The finding is especially relevant in Malaysia, where many firms rely heavily on that financing without fully considering long-term risk exposure. Now, why does this study stand out? Its methodological strength. The author used generalized method of moment (GMM) regression, which is well suited to handle endogeneity and issue common impeding data. They also used data from 5 to 8 Malaysian non-financial firms over a 12-year period and included important control variables like firm size, growth rate, and liquidity. This made the finding more relevant and context-specific. By showing that the leverage performance link is non-linear, the study challenged the outdated assumption that more debt is always better. It encouraged firms to critically assess their capital structure decisions rather than apply one-size-fits-all thinking. Finally, this article has shaped our thinking. We now understand that financial decisions around debt are not just technical, they are strategic and contextual. Theories like the trade-off and the agency theory are not just textbook concepts, but frameworks that inform actual business decisions. For Malaysian firms, where the capital market differs significantly from developed countries, this research emphasizes the need for tailored strategies. External shocks like interest rate changes or COVID-19 further complicate decisions around that. In conclusion, that can be a powerful tool, but if mismanaged, it becomes a trap. The key is informed flexible decision making.
Now, let's compare both articles and explore how they relate to each other in terms of real-world relevance. Article 1 takes a broad market-level view. It shows how we can use the CHS model to predict financial distress across many companies, which is it's helpful during crises like COVID-19. This is especially important for investor and fund manager managing portfolio under uncertainty. Article 2 zooms in on firm level decision. It emphasizes how capital structure, the mix of debt and equity can impact business performance. The study highlights that using too much debt can lead to long-term problems, even if it looks profitable in the short run. While this article focuses on different level macro and micro, they both highlight the need for smarter financial strategies and better risk models. Together, they teach us that good decision making in corporate finance require both external market awareness and internal financial disciplines. Next, to conclude, both articles we review offer meaningful contributions to corporate finance literature and practice. Article 1 introduces a more accurate and responsive way to measure market-wide financial distress through the CHS model. This is especially valuable in helping investors and policymakers detect early warning signs in the economy. Article 2, on the other hand, gives us a practical view of how a Malaysian firm can make better capital structure decisions by finding an optimal level of debt. It bridges theory and practice by applying global financial principles to local firms. Although the topics differ, both articles send a common message. Effective financial decision making depends on understanding risk and applying strategy carefully. As MBA students and future leaders, these insights are especially relevant as we prepare to manage business in unpredictable and complex environment. So that's all from us. Thank you for your time, Dr. Hadley.